Hi everyone, I'm Sophia. This is my third video documenting my journey through topical steroid withdrawal. I started TSW on December 2nd, 2020, and today it is December 1st, 2021. So I have made it a whole year as of tomorrow into my topical steroid withdrawal journey. So glad I made it through. So much has happened this year. It's been a crazy year. But I'm glad to be here now, and I'm having a little bit of a break from TSW still, so I'm really happy to be able to enjoy my 1-year anniversary and celebrate it a little bit. It's been a while since I've made a video, so I thought I would just go through from kind of month 5 until now and talk about how I've been feeling. Around month 4 to 6.5 was a really bad flare. That's spring allergy season in Ontario, so I struggle with that every year, and with TSW, your skin barrier is so thin and you're just hypersensitive to everything, so my skin flared up really badly, I think, because of the spring allergies. So I had those blisters all over my arms and just so much pain, no temperature regulation. It was a horrible time. So I ended up taking 4 months off of work, and I highly recommend that if you're going through TSW, if you do have the option to take some time off or lower your stress in any way. Here's a couple of videos from spring 2021. My face was flaky and dry, and it was really hard to shut my eyes because my skin was so tight. Most of my body during this flare looked how my back does in this video, with little bumps and cuts all over, and it was so itchy. You can see my legs here look very similar, especially the insides of my thighs and the insides of my calf. The outsides weren't too bad, and kind of on my hands as well as some of those blisters. And then I had a little bit of a mini break for months 7 and 8, that's June and July. So after spring allergy season ended, I could enjoy the summer a little bit. It definitely wasn't perfect. I still had quite a few problem areas with my skin. I was still really struggling with the sweat on my stomach and my back, just constantly sweating and burning. And I still was oozing quite a bit and had cuts still all over my body, but I was feeling better and I was having to kind of bandage myself less, so I counted that as a win. This summer with the heat was really tricky. The heat just burns so badly, and any kind of sweat burn. So I would either just have to kind of stay in the shade or only go out if there was a good breeze. I also started having some more panic attacks, especially related to the heat or being claustrophobic, like being stuck in a building or being stuck in the sun. But I was still able to enjoy some moments of summer here and there. Halfway through August is when ragweed season starts in Ontario, and that was a horrible time. So I would, I guess, consider that my third flare. Some people can really distinguish when their flares are, and they can count the number of flares, and other people just kind of flare consistently. I would say I kind of flared consistently for like 6 months, but I can kind of break it up into the first 2 months were horrible, spring allergies were horrible, and fall allergies were horrible. I also, in the start of the month when I was doing a little bit better, I tried showering and putting some coconut oil on my face, and that didn't go well. I just put a teeny amount, and I thought I would just kind of combat some of the dryness, but it just made me go completely red and oozy and flaky, kind of similar to how I was before I started NMT, so I've learned my lesson, and that's not going to work for me. I'm still avoiding showers at this point and just doing the bird baths in the sink. I also started having some pretty crazy adrenal problems in August, where I was just like so nauseous and exhausted, and I didn't want to eat anything. Like, eating was so hard, it would just make me so nauseous. So I lost a lot of weight, and that's all related to cortisol levels and the adrenal glands. And my grandpa also died at the end of August, so that could have contributed to the adrenal issues and the skin issues from, just crying and stress. It all comes out on the skin. In September, which was month 10, Was also a pretty rough month for me. Ragweed season was still pretty strong. I also started teaching again after being off for 4 months. It's a reduced workload, and I also started helping out with some administrative stuff at the music school I teach with. So I'm really grateful that they were so understanding through this whole process. So that's been great. If you're going through TSW and you can find some kind of work from home admin kind of thing, I definitely recommend that. But teaching is going a lot better now. I'm getting better with social interaction and kind of not having that stress response all the time. And I had some pretty extreme eye problems. I've struggled with my eyes all throughout TSW, and prior to starting TSW, when I was addicted to the steroids, I had eye problems for a couple of years with blurry vision and just really itchy. Every night they would get so red and swollen and itchy to the point where I couldn't see. Thankfully, I didn't have cataracts, which is really common in TSW, even in young people. But my eyes had deteriorated so quickly that he wanted me to get a blood test for diabetes. So I went from minus 0.25 to minus 1.5 within just a few months. My skin during this flare was obviously not great. I had a pretty bad face flare, and then I had absolutely a horrible time with my hips, which I've never had problems with my hips before. I've never even put steroid creams on them. But they were just completely raw, and my skin was just so thin that just any kind of friction, the skin would just totally come off. So my hips, my armpits, and then the creases of my knees and my arms, I really have struggled with the backs of my knees. So the other thing that happened in September, we found out that my dad has cancer, and that was extremely tough news. My stress response was starting to get better, but still wasn't really there, so I couldn't regulate my emotions, and I'm sure that didn't help things with my skin, so that's been difficult to manage emotionally on and off. I started taking some new supplements around this time as well, L-histidine, which promotes filaggrin production, and it's thought that people who have eczema don't produce enough filaggrin for their skin. And I've also been taking glutathione, which is helps with getting antioxidants, which are good for the skin. Of course, during this time, my skin was so bad, I couldn't wear a bra, couldn't wear underwear, because they would just attach the sweat right to it, and that would really burn and be painful. TSW has kind of forced me into a more natural way of living. I obviously can't wear makeup anymore. TSW's forced me to be a lot more confident and comfortable with myself, especially posting vulnerable videos and photos online for the world to see. It's hard and it's nerve-wracking, but yeah, I think it's helped with my confidence. So around month 11, I started feeling a little bit better. Skin-wise, but then I started developing hypoglycemia, which is new for me, and I haven't heard of a ton of people in the TSW support groups who have had similar things. It's been mentioned a couple times, but I don't know how common it is. So I started having these episodes where I would get suddenly so nauseous and so exhausted that I couldn't stand, I couldn't move, and I couldn't talk. So it was really terrifying the first time it happened. So since then, I've just been carrying around glucose tablets with me, and I've also been eating a lot more carbs and sugar than I would normally. But because of the hypoglycemia and because of what my eye doctor said about my eyes getting so bad, I got some blood work done. And it came back fairly normal, aside from some markers that all had to do with skin regeneration and allergies and stuff. So those were a little bit off, but I think it was all just adrenals and TSW doing its thing. Another thing I wanted to talk about in this video is the mental health aspect of going through TSW. Obviously, you're dealing with so much. You're dealing with the skin problems, the pain, and then being self-conscious, having to go to work, having to go out in public looking like that, on top of dealing with so many different types of loss of who you are physically, loss of who you are mentally, emotionally, all the things you have to stop doing, like your hobbies, going outside, loss of friendships, relationships. There's so much loss going through TSW that it can be really hard to deal with. And especially too, if you do have to take time off work, then that's a huge financial stress. When I'm in a good phase, I'm able to rationalize things and tell myself that this is temporary and it's going to get better. But when you're in a flare and you're sleep deprived, you've only slept for a couple hours within a few days, and you're just in so much pain, it's really, really hard, and all you want is an escape. And because there's no immediate relief for TSW, I felt so claustrophobic in my own body. I just wanted out. I wanted it to end, and I didn't care how. I do want to be transparent with this because that has been a huge problem for me going through this, and it's really easy to kind of say, oh, it gets better, and just kind of be too positive about it, and I don't want to be too positive about it because it is a really hard experience. And if you're just starting this, I don't want to scare people, but I also want people to know that if they're feeling this way, that they're not alone. I really struggled with being suicidal through all of this, on top of everything else TSW throws at you, and all the life challenges I've been through this year. It's been really hard, but it is important to know that it does end, and that things do get better, and I'm feeling so much better now, and I'm really hoping that I'm going to be able to take how good I'm feeling now and remind myself in my next flare that it will end, and your body is capable of healing. It will get there. So I'm hoping now that I've seen a little bit of a break that will help me get through my next flare. So a little bit about how I'm doing now. Comparatively, I am doing great. I feel fantastic. I'm still struggling with a few areas. My face is really dry and my scalp is really dry, and they're just so itchy, so I'm constantly rubbing off skin and itching them. But I've been getting acrylic nails for the past little while, and they help so much. I just had them do one nail first and then wait a couple of minutes to make sure I wasn't allergic. And then I just declined any of the oil, lotion, hand massage, hot towel, all of that. I still have some problems with the creases and the creases behind my knees, but I tend to itch them and then they look a little worse, and then a little bit later they are all good again. But my stomach is pretty much totally normal. My legs are looking good. If you didn't know I had TSW, you probably wouldn't know anything was wrong with me aside from some dry skin on my face. No pain, no nerve pain at all. I haven't had that in quite a while, so that's been amazing. Even in my last flare, the temperature regulation and the nerve pain wasn't nearly as bad as it was in the spring. In terms of sleep, I'm sleeping through the night now, and I have been for the past maybe month and a half or so. There'll be a few nights here and there where I maybe only get 5 hours, but a lot of the time I'm sleeping right through the night, sometimes 8-9 hours, so that's been amazing. The other thing that happened is that my eyesight came back. I've gone back to my old glasses and I can see great. My eyes are nice and clear, and they're much less itchy, much less swollen at night. I'm still kind of eating whatever at this point. I'm trying to kind of cut down on the carbs and the dairy because they kind of affect my breathing, and I'm trying not to take my puffer because I want to avoid steroid puffers, and the Ventolin puffer can kind of lose its efficacy the more you use it. I haven't really had much oozing. NMT really helped with the oozing, but I still had some. I just have a little bit on my earlobes now. I really struggle with my ears, but overall not too much oozing. Yeah, I think that's all for this video. I will keep posting video updates and updates on Instagram. I've started a TSW Instagram called Sophia Sans Steroids, and I'll post a link to that in the description. I also made up a little TSW how-to guide, and I'm going to post a link to that as well, so you can see all the different things I've tried and things that have really helped me. In the meantime, if you're looking to learn more about TSW, check out the ITSAN website. That's International Topical Steroid Awareness Network. They do so much incredible work for TSW. And there's a huge TSW community on Instagram, TikTok, pretty much everywhere. Alright, that's all for this video. Thank you for watching, and thank you so much to everybody who has helped spread the word and spread awareness.